Hello, welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. This is the Saturday night edition in partnership with KRTD Media. You know the scoop, Willy Bragg Show, KRTD Media works together to promote each other since we're all buried in the algorithms, what they like to do to us on YouTube and other areas of social media. So anyway, tonight we're going to discuss how to defeat fascism, and and basically with class warfare. But in the meantime, what we're also going to do, well, couple of announcements before we get started. One, after this show's over at midnight, because he's on the chat line right now. Warren's on the chat line. The Secret Show will be back this evening. I repeat, the Secret Show will be back this evening. The universe finally is back in sync and everything is getting back to normal once again. So we're going to have the Secret Show back. We'll see Warren, we will see Jimmy, and everything will be great once again. We'll make YouTube great again. So anyway, so y'all be there at midnight on Extra Booyah. You'll see the Secret Show. Give him a follow, give him a like, say hello, and subscribe to his channel, and support all of independent media and everything. Oh, in regard to Jimmy, Image Production on Twitch. I know she needs 100 followers. Please, you can find it on my YouTube channel, on the area where if you find Image Productions, you'll find it. Well, actually, you won't. That's her YouTube channel. Anyway, actually, you find it in the description box. On my description box below, where it says graphics, go ahead, click on the Twitch and follow her there. She needs up to 100 followers. So if you haven't followed her yet, please do so. So anyway, let me get started with this show here. We're trying to prevent fascism from taking over, and it seems to have made a comeback. It's like we're living in the Weimar Republic these days. I mean, it may not be exactly the same as the Weimar Republic, but some history doesn't repeat itself, but it sometimes rhymes, I guess, as the saying goes. There are parallels, as one might notice, and occasionally, even bad people realize how messed up it can be. I want to, from the get-go, I'm just going to say it like this. I have never, ever been a fan of Ted Cruz at all. We know Ted Cruz. We know this guy. I mean, he's always been bad news. And the bad thing about StreamYards is when I'm trying to go and get a graphic, it's never in the order I want it to be in. There we go. But Ted Cruz is bad news. I mean, he was the guy that was influenced by Jesse Helms. Jesse Helms motivated this guy. This asshole is 2 years younger than me. Okay, he's 2 years younger than me. And Jesse Helms, who I used to hang my head in shame, being from North Carolina, knowing that was my senator. He was motivated to go into politics because of Jesse Helms. This is who we're talking about with regard to Ted Cruz. But even certain things, there was even certain things that certain areas where Ted Cruz was not willing to go in the fascism game. And, I mean, fascism doesn't have to necessarily be 100% white supremacy all the time. And you can have fascism in places where it's not predominantly a white country. In Uganda, they execute gay people, um, which is horrible. I mean, it's unexcusable that's a thing. That's a you know to have a a country where that's in the penal code. Well, um, he's not a proponent of LGBTQ rights. It's fitting to mention this in relation to fascism because, and also with Pride Month, because Ted Cruz is not a friend of the LGBTQ community. He's not a proponent of civil rights legislations or hate crime legislations or civil unions or marital equality and all that. I mean, he's kind of pretty much very backwards on this issue. Having that said, certain things just even Ted Cruz wasn't willing to go there. Listen, There's no audio on this again. I cannot believe. I don't know what's going on with this computer. I am so sorry, folks. If there's no audio, okay. There's no audio. There's no audio. I can't believe this. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So I'm just going to have to improvise and all. So here we go. Okay. Basically what the Amazing Atheist was saying, and I'm sorry about that. The Amazing Atheist was basically defending Ted Cruz, and what he was basically saying was, there is actually a way to get a sound out of these videos. I'm not gonna go what I did last week. I'm sorry about that. What he was basically saying was that the right wing started accusing him of being woke. You imagine woke Ted Cruz. That's just unfathomable to have Ted Cruz being considered woke. So I mean, just the whole idea of that, and just because you don't favor the death penalty. And this is not, I don't believe in cultural relativism. I'm not talking about United States trying to go and do anything, intervention wise. I do not want that or anything. I'm not one of those folks that because, another country's doing something terrible and the United States, there's not a lot, I'm nobody in America is allowed to say something, you as an individual have a right to question what another country does. But the United States doesn't have a right to intervene per se, not at all. But at the same time, you need to call out the human rights. There is, this is why we have groups like Amnesty International in existence to call out things like this when it comes to human rights abuse around the world. Like abolishing torture, abolishing, capital punishment, abolishing, discriminations against whole groups of people, wherever discrimination rears its ugly head around the world. That's what the fact that you got people that think that killing whole groups of people for living a life that they don't agree with is absolutely just, that's evil. It really is. So, but let's go to talk about the three stages of American fascism, because I would argue that there's three stages of American. I would say that there's probably three, maybe four stages of American fascism. But let's start with the vanilla stage. And I'm going to make an attempt to do another video to play some audio. Hopefully there will be some sounds. There was a sound last week, so I don't know what the heck is going on. I would say that, for example, I would argue that Joe Biden would be probably the most benign, and I hate using that word to even describe him, but he's probably the most benign in the sense that he was in the early 70s, he was a soft segregationist. And he's been behind a lot of bad decisions that the United States has been involved with in the last 50 some years since he's entered politics. Establishment Democratic politics, fiercely partisan, every direction that where the wind was blowing, where the poor and the middle class were basically tossed aside. That's where Joe Biden was always. He usually voted for war abroad. The crime bill in 1994 that incarcerated all the African Americans, that expanded the death penalty up to 50 crimes. All this, just all to show to war the Republicans and the Reagan Democrats, that just to show to them we're just as terrible as the Republicans. And that's basically what it came down to. And when it comes right down to it, it's like the Democrats wants to prove they're just as terrible as the Republicans. While they'll sit there and maybe talk smack about the Republicans, then when it comes right down to policy, they want to prove that they're just as terrible as the Republicans. And so I kind of call him the vanilla stage. Another example of that would be the attempted appointment. Well, he did appoint her, and we're talking about the appointment of Nina Yankowicz, which I'm proud to say that she blocked me on Twitter several months ago. Nina Yankowicz, who created with the Biden administration, created the Disinformation Governance Board, the well-known what was called Ministry of Truth. You know, the one where she's doing the little Mary Poppins songs that was so cringe. And thankfully, there was a lot of backlash against this Disinformation Governance Board. That at that point, where they decided it was just too politically risky to go on with this. And I'm gonna tell you, even though they wouldn't have meant it, and they would have been sincere, and they would have used it for their own ends, because I don't think that the Republicans taking over in 2024, in the year 2025, I don't think that a Trump presidency or a DeSantis presidency would dismantle the Disinformation Governance Board. They would use it. They would use it against their political opponents, just as the attempts to use it right now, had it been implemented, it would have been used against their political opponents, the administration's political opponents, which is basically the conservative movement. They're going to be correct. They're correct about that. But it's not just the conservatives, but those that stand against the establishment. That includes people on the real left, not the fake left. She wanted to shut down, for example, the gray zone. I know that for a fact. Nina Yankowicz. So, the public pressure behind this Disinformation Governance Board, they felt the heat. They knew it. They were like, "Oh crap, we better not go with this." So it was a victory last year when they decided to scrap this whole idea of a Disinformation Governance Board. So it was absolutely just nuts that whole idea. Nobody likes disinformation. I don't like disinformation. I don't like conspiracy theories. It's unhealthy. But at the same time, I do think that you got a right to disseminate it. And I know it sounds terrible, but you got a right to you when it comes to doing the news. You kind of have a right to lie. I hate that they do. I don't. When I go and report and do my commentary to the best of my ability, I try to offer everybody. I don't consider myself a journalist or anything, but I try to offer as much truth as possible. The truth the way I see it. And I mean, when I say that, the truth the way I see, I mean how I see the world objectively. And how I see the world objectively may not be shared by others. But I'm not going to use a conspiracy theory as a method to control others the way that the Alex Jones types like to do, or spread vicious smears and lies like Fox News and talk radio likes like to do back in the day, and still to the present, still they are still guilty of this. So are the so-called liberal media. The fake the people like Rachel Maddow with her Russiagate narratives and everything, and pulling these sort of shenanigans. I am going to go and make one attempt to see if the video works, and if it doesn't, well, we'll see where to go from here. But anyhow, let's see if this works. If it works, maybe be cringe and enjoy. If not, whatever. Is there a sound? Okay. No sound yet. I need to get a new computer. I swear I think I need to get a new computer. Okay. There's something weird going on with the audio. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Mary Poppins. I mean, she's like a really like a more psychotic evil Nomiki Kantz. um yeah, that's the best way I could describe it. I hate the fact that I don't have audio because I had everything formatted here tonight. So the show may actually end up being a heck of a lot shorter than planned. But suffice to say, yeah. What was I going to say? Yes. Yeah, she's basically like a more psychotic Nomiki Konsi, if that's even imaginable. If that's even imaginable. So anyhow. Oh Lord. Okay. Let's do this here. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's basically one stage of this vanilla fascism. I call it kind of the vanilla fascism of sorts. Um, and and is in keeping. We'll talk about another person that I bring her up, and we all bring her up occasionally. And I'm talking about AOC. Now, I hate to call her a fascist, and it's not that I think she's a fascist, but instead of fighting for Medicare for all and workers' rights and all that, she wants to go and brag about doxing people. Again, not a fan of Tucker Carlson. I make that clear. I got issues with Tucker Carlson. I just don't think that Tucker Carlson is any worse on these controversial matters than the rest of the people from Fox News. In fact, I think some of the other folks on Fox News are far worse than Tucker Carlson. So I never could figure out, I mean, if Tucker Carlson is a racist, they're all as racist as he is on Fox News. Because I mean, there's nothing that they say on Fox News that's any more affirming toward the African American community or toward immigrants than Tucker Carlson. In fact, Tucker Carlson was the only one that defended Omar Yeshitila from the African People's Socialist Party. Can you imagine Sean Hannity or someone like Mark Levin or someone or somebody from Fox and Friends in the morning doing this sort of thing? Not at all. Not at all. Or what's her name? The lady, I cannot think of her name right now. No, none of these folks would be able to. They don't have it in them to defend, on principle, what's happened to to the people for the African People's Socialist Party, the Uhuru movement, because they're supposedly Russian assets and some sort of Putin puppet here in the United States, whereby the U.S. Department of Injustice has to go and make trouble for them. I mean, this is what it's coming down to. Well, as I said, AOC is taking delight in, having somebody doxxed. And, again, not a fan of Tucker Carlson, but I would say this about Tucker Carlson. I mean, he was the only one that allowed any left voices on Fox News. The rest of the people would not allow. If they will allow a left voice on the Fox News, they will drown them out, not allow them to get their point across. And that's like one of the big difference right there. Now, some people can argue whether Jimmy Dore or Glenn Greenwald are lefties or not. But, when Anna Kasparian's buddying up with Ben Shapiro, apparently that's okay. But, even though I know they're debating on the Daily Wire, I understand that. But they're debating and all that. But when Glenn Greenwald or Jimmy Dore comes on Tucker Carlson, they're not coming up there to say, we agree with you that we need to lower taxes for the wealthy. We agree with you. They're not even agreeing on the hideous immigration stances of Tucker Carlson. I mean, they're not agreeing with him on these issues. They're agreeing with him on the war situation in Ukraine, Russia, and they're agreeing with him on Assange, on issues like that. Issues that should be dear to the left. But, as I say, you would never get that from Sean Hannity or Mark Levin or people of that nature. So I again, the doxing, I have a problem with doxing, this whole notion of that. So let's get to where there is a real, the real road will begin. But I would say that while Donald Trump represents a real potential road, he is so chaotic and so incompetent that it can't be done. I mean, because look at this guy. I mean, he's a clown. I mean, I know he's got a cult of people following him. But you have to understand that a lot of these people that follow him, they're following him because he's the leader at the moment. As soon as someone like a DeSantis or boring old Mike Pence becomes the leader, or whomever becomes the leader of the GOP, that's the leader they're going to follow. They followed George W. Bush when George W. Bush was the leader. Okay? I mean, so that, the dog whistles that Donald Trump, and they're there. So when the Republicans deny those dog whistles, they can sit there and deny it. The dog whistles are there, and maybe the dog whistles were a little bit louder. But Donald Trump didn't invent the dog whistles. All my life, I've heard those dog whistles, and I've heard Republicans deny what were dog whistles. Actually, there were dog whistles louder than Donald Trump. As I said, I'm from North Carolina. Jesse Helms had one of the loudest dog whistles there were. In 1988, George Herbert Walker Bush with the Willie Horton ad, scaring people like Michael Dukakis will free, black people from prisons. That's basically what it was about with the Willie Horton ads in 1988. Yeah, and the thing about it was Michael Dukakis did not bring about the weekend furloughs in Massachusetts. He was actually trying to get rid of the weekend furloughs, but it was obviously a race. They were racist. Those campaign ads in 1988, and anybody who says they weren't, they're not living in reality. um, or they're just full of crap. Trying to harmonize the libel laws with Great Britain. There's a lot of things I love about the UK. I love the National Health Service. I mean, I loved a lot of the pulp culture of the UK. I love the fact that I've been in England. I mean, if it wasn't so expensive, I could probably retire there. But some things about the UK I don't like, and they're not great on speech. And they're not, they're a heavily surveillance society. They got cameras around a lot of street corners these days. It's been a thing for the last 25, 30 years or so. Also, when it comes to speech in the UK, whether you're a well-known public figure or whether you're just an insignificant person on the street, that if you criticize a public figure, a powerful public figure can actually sue you and actually make you pay for the court costs and all of that. And he thinks it's a good idea to do that because Donald Trump wants to be protected from any criticism against him. He's one of the most thin-skinned people you could ever imagine around. It's kind of funny, and sometimes it's frightening. And, he sued, and I'm not particularly crazy about Bill Maher, but he sued Bill Maher over a joke. He basically called Donald Trump a human or orangutan. You're going to go sue somebody over that? I mean, that's ridiculous. And the fact that he tried to do an insurrection act in the summer of 2020 against peaceful protesters. I know some protesters, there were some quarters in some areas where they were getting a little bit rough. I understand that. But about 90% of the protesters were peaceful. But to the average right-winger out there, they were like, no, crack their skulls. I mean, that was the attitude. And a lot of red states around the country have implemented specialized anti-riot laws that you haven't seen in years. It used to be, back in 1987. I'm giving just a random year. The 1960s were over. So a demonstration that had 12 people, they didn't care if 12 people were making a noise in a state capitol somewhere. But when 12 people turn into 1,200 people or turn into, 5,000 people, they get scared of this sort of thing. And they're not having it. So that's why a lot of these states are starting to implement these laws. Like down in Florida, Governor DeSantis put up a law that's not it's not even implemented in a consistent way. So you got it so where Cuban Americans who are critical of the Cuban government can go and protest against communist Cuba, and the law enforcement people, they don't do anything to them except maybe slap them on the wrist and say, naughty, you can't do that. But if, let's say Black Lives Matter or Antifa doing an anti-protest or anti-racism protest, some right-winger sees that and gets really pissed off, goes drive into a sidewalk, run over these people, and he can say, well, I feel threatened. There is a clause in the law in Florida where he could say, well, I felt threatened. I can go and run over these people because I was defending myself, and he could theoretically get off. This is the kind of law that exists in Florida, signed by Governor DeSantis, which I will argue, one of the reasons why I argue that he is an extremely dangerous man, Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis, as I said, Florida is the training ground for the real new fascism in America. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Donald Trump has a cakewalk to the Republican nomination. And I wish that the videos were working, because I had a segment from Generational Change where Russell from New Dissidents was giving his take on why you need to watch out for Ron DeSantis, because he basically said that they're not going to allow Donald Trump to get the nomination. I'm going to paraphrase him, that they basically said they will not allow that man back into the White House. He was referring to the Republican establishment, that they would not allow that man back into the White House. They want to give it to Ron DeSantis. Look at Fox News. Fox News is pro Ron DeSantis. The Blaze TV is pro Ron DeSantis. The Daily, the Daily Wire is pro Ron DeSantis. So they're all kind of like all around, orbiting around Ron DeSantis. That is who they want. They want Donald Trump out of the way, and I think they're gonna try to do what they can to get rid of their little Donald Trump problem, and they're going to do whatever it takes. I'm not going to repeat what Russell said, because if I say it, the algorithms will interpret it in a negative way, and my channel could get in trouble. But let's just say it would be considered a conspiracy theory. But Donald Trump, they'll have their way to deal with Donald Trump, the GOP establishment. I'll put it that way. So if that makes any sense to anybody, what I'm saying. This man is dangerous. He has an anti-communist curriculum that's in the classroom, or will be in the classrooms in the school. He claims that they're teaching CRT in the classrooms in Florida. They're not. And basically, he's banned books, banning. It's like censorship is on overload, and his crusade against woke is reverse woke. Basically, it's a kind of crusade that it ends up being as authoritarian as what people project woke to be. To be woke is not necessarily authoritarian. Some people can be, I guess. But his extreme crusade against it, he said Florida where woke come to die. Basically, he is basically a right-wing SJW. He's basically a right-wing, he's practicing a right-wing variation of wokeness. Right-wing cancel culture, right-wing censorship, right-wing authoritarianism. The biggest target in Florida right now, other than immigrants that he likes to traffic into other states, LGBTQ. You can't even utter anything dealing with LGBTQ in any, as a matter of fact, way. If a gay teacher has a husband, or a gay man has a husband, can't mention he has a husband. Or a lesbian cannot mention she has a wife. That's the kind of thing. They have to keep it to themselves. Whereas, straight people can talk about their spouse. That's that sort of thing. That's what I mean by don't say gay. And they go and attack. Here's the thing. I hate the fact I have to go defend Disney because of this. I don't like defending Disney, but I have a problem with Disney being a municipality in itself. And in any normal circumstances, I would not have a problem with going after Disney. But for the reason he went after Disney is the problem I have with his war against Disney. And this is why I've said that Ron DeSantis is essentially everything that you despise about Donald Trump that's real and imagined, without the comedy show. But you get everything that's really, really horrible about George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. He is the worst of all worlds. And he is an extremely dangerous man. And I don't mind telling you all that I absolutely despise Ron DeSantis. I do. I despise this man. I do not want him any, and he is a war criminal. That's another thing right there. He's not even president yet, and he is a war criminal already, folks. He has committed war crimes already in Guantanamo Bay when he was in the U.S. Navy as a U.S. naval attorney, U.S. JAGs, pretending to be a good cop with the detainees, enjoying them suffering. This person is unfit to be anywhere near the White House. It's bad enough that he's Florida's problem. So that's another level of fascism there. Another level of fascism that I would say exists comes in the form of, yes, right there. It comes in the form of this grotesque creature. And I'm referring to, as soon as I put it up there on the screen, wherever the hell it is, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, yeah, this person here. I mean, this person who likes to stalk other members of Congress. This person who basically, wants to go to, in commercials, in a campaign commercial, was shooting up socialists as target practice. I mean, not like human beings, but like a sign with it said socialist, sign that said, what was it, Black Lives Matter, another sign that says Antifa. I mean, and he's really meaning human beings. I mean, when I first saw that commercial several years ago, and I'm like, Georgia's just crazy enough, that district's crazy enough to elect her. They are. And even her supporters think she's too moderate. That's really disturbing. I was listening to Farron Cousins the other day, and her supporters think that she's gone too centrist, too soft, and that's crazy. That is crazy. So and I said, and she's causing me to kind of go back to defending AOC on a part-time basis. I mean, she goes, before being elected to Congress, she's harassing AOC at her office, at the little mail slot at the door, opening the flap, telling her to come out there and calling her a baby killer and acting like, whatever you think of abortion. I mean, AOC is not responsible for the Roe versus Wade decision of 1973, for starters. And for another, and to go and do that, I mean, it's just like, she is just nuts. And then she went after David Hogg with the school shooting down in Florida. I think it was back in 2017, 2018. She was following that kid up in Washington and saying she had a conceal and carry permit. And she was basically threatening him. I mean, this is the kind of unhinged individual that we're referring to. And never forget that the role she's kind of played in regard to January 6th. I think she ought to have been removed from Congress. And the fact that she's got powerful committees now, and and she's a powerful woman these days is absolutely frightening. It is. I'm sorry. Okay. So right now, so that's where we're at. And let's see here. So then we entered this stage. Y'all remember this in 2017 in Charlottesville, these nerds with the tiki torches. These nerds with the tiki torches going around, what were they saying when they were walking around with these torches? Jews will not replace us. Jews will not replace us. And they were there to protect the Confederate statues. And then they acted like they were victims because the counter protesters were yelling at them. It was just that was nuts. And I mean, these people came there to be assholes. I mean, they had a constitutional right to be there. I mean, on a First Amendment grounds. But you know what? The counter protesters had a right to be there too, to tell them they were a bunch of assholes. This is what I don't get about the right wing. When the right wing say they have a right to speak their mind and speak and advocate their positions, if they're not being violent, they do have their rights. But what they fail to recognize is that people who disagree with their positions, they're also entitled to their right to disagree with these people. And that's the thing right there. They're entitled to their right to disagree with these people. And they act like, well, if they're challenging me, they're taking away our rights. No, they're not. They're basically saying you're full of shit, and we're here to say you're full of shit. Even if many of them think it is their right, it is your right wingers to spew your stuff, they're going to be there to say you're still full of shit. So I don't see what the problem is when left counter protests the right in these, when it comes to things like Charlottesville. But, the deaths that happened in Charlottesville, it was because of the right. And it was because of the shenanigans that happened and everything. They cost it on themselves, was what happened. And there was one of their leaders. Gosh, I cannot think of his name. I think it has something to do with some of the I think it had something to do with a guy that ran over some of the people out there as a protest, and he was saying he was wanting to return himself in, and he was nervous and all of that, and he was filming himself to the authorities and all of that, and he was sitting there talking tough at this event. But then he was all like nervous and just a total wimp afterwards, And sometimes, a lot of these people, when they try to act intimidating, they prove that they're just the opposite, that they're cowards. And I'm going to tell you what it comes down to. Why do people get attracted to this sort of movement? It has a lot to do with the fact that there's a lot of economic inequality, economic insecurity, that sort of thing. And when you have austerity measures, when you have things like that that's happened over the years, I mean, I'm not going to say Reagan started it. It's the neoliberalism started in full swing in the 70s, but it became an official ideology of the U.S. government. I mean, they really made it official under Reagan. And we're talking about austerity. We're talking about union busting. We're talking about gutting away the safety net. We're talking about corporate welfare. We're talking about outsourcing. We're talking about a rigged economy that's rigged against people at every turn, where you deprive people of opportunity and make it harder for people at every turn. You increase property value at every turn. You make medical care more expensive at every turn. You everything that's supposed to be fairly basic at a reasonable cost for people has become an expensive, not just a commodity, but a luxury item. And it's turned a lot of people into directions where they probably wouldn't go otherwise. And they're seeking answers. And sometimes some of those answers they seek, it's usually answers that they're not good. like blaming people of color, or blaming well, we'll just say blaming certain names like Soros, or names like that. I mean, and we know what they mean when they say Soros, or blaming the LGBTQ community, or blaming immigrants for their problems. They blame everything except for what they need to blame, and that is corporatism. Corporatism that calls all the shots in this country. Neoliberalism. That's the blame, and we need to see that. I would say the solution is basically the solution is a multiracial unified movement to combat this, because we all have more in common with each other than we do on our own. And until people realize this, we're going to have these pointless culture wars that are having people just sniping at each other over pronouns and bathrooms, and people getting angry over what they view as alternative marriages, and all of these other social issues. But it's here's the thing. It's not just in America that this fascism thing is going on. I mean, right now, the New York Times had to admit it. They could not keep this a secret any longer. Over there in the Ukraine, what our tax dollars are doing, they're funding, perhaps indirectly, but they're funding these assholes, the Azov Battalion, and that's what's been going on for since this war started. Maybe going back as far back as 2014, when the CIA toppled the government of Ukraine, and then legitimizes these clowns here. And to see this sort of thing coming back is very scary. I mean, to see people celebrating Stefan Bandera, and having street parades and all that, and then and there are people here in the United States. They're like, they act like it's not a big deal, or hardly anybody's doing that. And let's not forget the kill list, that infamous kill list in over there in that country. I'm sorry. In that country, that kill list that they have, that of Americans. Some of them are Americans, our own citizens. They're on that kill list. And we're funding this. And it's terrible that we're funding this. So, I remember a conversation in 1987. I was 18 years old. I had a conversation with my dad. We were watching 60 Minutes. And we were watching, was the report on the war in Afghanistan between the Soviets and the rebels, and Mujahideen rebels. I guess I'm pronouncing it correctly. And we saw one of the rebels shooting down a Soviet plane. And my dad is a conservative Republican, and he's not a fan of communism, but he told me, son, he said that rocket launcher will one day be turned against the U.S. And so I'm making a prediction very similar. We're indirectly funding Nazis. And we're probably going to end up with a Nazi problem in the way that there was a 9/11 in 2001. And, and it's scary times that we live in. Now, as I said earlier, there was more to talk about, and there would have been more context that I was going to put into this video. But since I'm having audio problems, I had to majorly improvise. And for that, I am incredibly, incredibly sorry. And my audio was kind of working a little bit last week. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to have to go check that out. So I will be cutting this video shorter than I plan to tonight. But in the meantime, I do have some announcements. But I will say this before I do. Okay, we have one person that's has a lot to say, but anyhow, let's see here. Um, Warren said over here on the chat line, "Hey Warren." Actually, he was on before the show started. Let's see here. Let's see. Snipe Hunter says, "Hi peeps." Hi, Snipe Hunter. Let's see. Let's see. Choosing who excuses coronation revolutions now. I'm sorry. I'm yawning. Laughing out loud. Anybody's going to defeat fascists with synchronicity is going to be us. Absolutely fuckingly. Yep. Yep. And I think it's going to take class warfare at the end of the day. I'm just got done mopping up Canadians. Oh my. I've been to Canada once. All right, let's see. I got a number 2. I don't want to hear any effing jokes. Let's see. You guys are this blank for taking the numbers before I did. Okay. Let's see. What's the story? Did Pasta? Let's see. What's the story? Did Pasta put a hip on me? I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see. Tell him I said vegetarians taste better. Oh, okay. I think I know what you're talking about. He's vegan. Okay. I guess that's what you meant. Tell Pastor that I said twice. I'm twice his age and half his weight, but I can still take him probably in a split second. Okay. All right. I'm deciding who sits at the 2 table after this. Okay. If you think Bud for Pusser sticks to his big and bad, wait till you see my walking stick. All right. If you think Pootie Tang was quick with his belt, he. All right. Let's see. I can take them, Willie. Just bring them over to my verbal grave. All right. All right. Sound. Yep. That's what I was a little worried about with the sound. What was Billy Jack doing in those cowboy boots? I got like proper boots. I've not worn boots in years. Let's see. Did I ever tell you the time in college that a couple of ROTC guys and boots found out that about serious robot boots the hard way? I used to have some really good what they call beetle boots. They really look sharp on your feet. Let's see. They thought that they would. They were going to jump after. Jump me after. I had to talk the close friend out of the ROTC in the last minute. Okay. They learned very, very painful lesson. There wasn't a mark on me. Okay, sound like you kicked some ass then, huh? All right. Okay, let's see what we got here. We're not backing out of these nice Malta, Willie, to cut out the political language. Harangue, and let's get out the heart of it. Okay, let's see. Let's scroll down just a little bit. See, there's others. That want to deprive others, because I'm going to get offline soon. Miguel, hey, how are you? All right. Let's see, Nina. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, I know who you're talking about here. Okay, David. It's David. Tucker Carlson hired a white supremacist writer. I think that Sean Hannity is friends with a white supremacist. Somebody called him out down that a couple of years ago. Hal Turner, I believe, was his name. He had a radio show on, and that was controversial. Let's see. I didn't actually graduate from Syracuse. I got the F out of there, and after that, the first semester of my junior year, it was on to better things. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. We let's see. Yeah, let's see. Snipe Hunter says Snowflake. And okay. Let's see. Pry Unicorn Rainbow Maine. Hey Jimmy, how are you? Let's see here. All right. Deregulate this says MSNBC is pro Ron DeSantis. I bet you they're probably more pro Ron DeSantis than they are pro Bernie Sanders. Let's see. All right, I'm looking through here. Let's see. All right, I'm looking through here. Yeah, I had to get a haircut. Just like you, Warren, I'm trying to be low maintenance for the summer. The brutal summer just makes my hair look like crap, so that's what it comes down to. All right. I'll tell you what, guys. I am going to cut it short this evening, and I do apologize. Next week when I do this, the video, I'm going to make this video work somehow, the audio. So I don't know what the heck is going on. I mean, it worked a little bit last week, but right now it's not working. And it's making me kind of upset that's doing that. So anyway, be sure to tonight to watch the Secret Show with Uncle Warren and Miss Jimmy. They're back. They'll be back they'll be back tonight at midnight on June the 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be on the JB Font show as a guest. JB Font, who's one of the members of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, he's going to have me on the show on June 27th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just I'll let y'all know. And until next time, I would like for you all to hit the like button. If you do not mind, hit the like button. Also, be sure to comment away and whatever, positive, negative, whatever you have to say, we'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are the muckrakers of our time. And remember to always reject corporate media because they have absolutely nothing to offer us. You can follow me here on YouTube, subscribe, and follow me here on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. And until next time, I am Willy Bragg, and we'll see y'all next week. Hopefully, everything will be a little more functional. And I'll conclude by saying Cornell West 2024. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.